All right, here we go. So this is going to be the 2.1 assignment. This is dealing with fractions, decimals, and percentages. Before we get to the problems themselves, let's go ahead and take a look at the larger dynamic of it, what these things look like, and how you figure out these things from one to the other. So we see here that we have fractions, decimals, and percentages. In this class, it's noted that we round to 2 decimal places. Let's begin with the fraction category right here. When we have a fraction, you can use your calculator. You can use, I believe the symbol looks something like this on your calculator, or vice versa, that you can enter a fraction, or it's worth noting that in a fraction, it is the same thing as a division. Whatever floats your boat, that's the way to do it. So for instance, I'll just do the division, and that's 5 divided by 7. All right, so that comes up with an answer of 0.714285, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so that is our decimal. So again, that's how you convert that. Now, if you have a fraction in your calculator, you can use the SD button on your calculator, and that will turn your fraction into a decimal, or vice versa, a decimal back into a fraction. All right, so we are now talking about decimals. When I have a decimal or anything in this class, as I mentioned, we are going to go to 2 decimal places. I'll put that on the back burner for right now, and let's press on. How I turn a decimal into a percentage is you multiply by 100, or move the decimal 2 places to the right. And so that is how you move from a decimal to a percentage. All right. Now, how do you reverse engineer this stuff? How do you go backwards? Well, the only crazy one is you divide by 100 to turn the percentage back into a decimal. And then again, you use the SD button into the fraction. So you can go to the right and you can go to the left. So when I have this, all right, I get a value of 71.42857. All right, it'd be prudent of me to talk about rounding to 2 decimal places at this point. So looking at the decimal, I noticed that my answer is 0.71428. Since we're going to 2 decimals, this is in essence where we're cutting off the answer. All right. In the world of percentages, it's 71.4285. That's where we would cut off the answer. Now, rounding. If I'm rounding to 2, the number that I'm interested in is the number beyond that second decimal. So in the decimal case, it is the 4. This is a small number, i.e. a number 0 to 4. That's a small number. When you have a small number, what you do is you just cut off the rest, and thus your official answer would be 0.71. All right, in the percentage example, I noticed that the number beyond is a big number, i.e. a number 5 to 9. When you have a big number, what you do is you round up. So as in, like, you add like a small teeny tiny 1 to the end of what you're keeping. So this official answer would be 71.43 because the 2 is increased. And that is rounding. On to the show. So for instance, here we have in the first question 3/4. So what I do is I go 3 divided by 4. That turns into 0.75. That's my decimal. This question is asking for the percent. And so what I do now is I multiply by 100, and that gets me my answer of 75%. You do the same thing with number 2, and you do number 3. So again, you set this up as a division, 3 divided by 4, or you could put 3/4. You hit that SD button, or you just do the division, and that gets us to this 0.75, and then you multiply by 100, and that gets us to our final product of 75%. Okay, moving down to problems like number 4, 5, and 6. Again, I think I already did this straight up example. They want this as a percent. So we begin with 5/7, hit the SD button, and that is the same thing as saying 0.71, multiply by 100, and that comes out to be 71.43% when I round correctly. This is the answer that they're looking for. All right. Now here they have us with some decimals, and they want the percent. So again, going from a decimal to a percentage, this is where you are multiplying by 100. So you're doing this right here. You're turning this decimal into the percentage, so you are multiplying by 100 to get from point A to point B in these problems. So again, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So 0.23 multiply by 100, and that is going to be 23. So as in, this is 23%. So we multiply by 100 for 7, 8, and 9. And then we're kind of coming to the end here. So write each as a decimal. So here they give us a percentage and they want a decimal. So we're starting with this percentage and we need to go this way. So that would be divide by 100 to make this clock tick. So we need to divide by 100. So here we have 15%. I divide by 100. And that turns into 0.15. That's 2 decimals. That's exactly what I'm looking for. A kind of a tricky question on this one is number 12, 7.5%. So if I have 7.5%, in essence, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 100. But note that the answer is 0.075. Again, we are taking this to 2 decimal places, so note that the 5 is technically going to round the 7. So this official answer would be 0.08 as the decimal that I'm reporting. And then 13, 14, 15 are asking you to do the entire thing. So we are going from a percentage all the way back down to a fraction. So we're going to turn a percentage all the way down to a fraction. So again, one more time. If I'm starting with a percentage and going this way, I would divide by 100. And then I would use the SD button to turn the decimal into a fraction. So I'm going that way. So divide by 100. And then use the SD button. So for instance, 20% divide by 100. Hit the SD button. And so that fraction is 1/5. It's worthwhile to mention that when you go like from point A to point B to point C, don't stop and retype the number into your calculator again and again and again. Your answer gets less and less accurate and it'll throw your answers off. So in those situations, just keep it into the calculator and just keep doing math. All right, just keep going. Don't stop and retype. Just keep going. All right, that will get you through the first assignment.